Welcome to the Sellernomics Podcast. In today's episode, we'll be featuring one of the many great tools and software available to Amazon sellers to help you grow your FBA business. A special thank you to our sponsor, GETIDA, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at getida.com/Sellernomics. Now it's time to show us what you got with your host, Lisa Kinski.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Show Us What You Got. My name is Lisa Kinski and I am joined today by Daniel Little with Link My Books. He is the co-founder and CEO, and we are going to be talking about how to automate your Amazon bookkeeping. So I'm going to bring Daniel on now with me. Dan, how are you, dear?
I'm good. How are you, Lisa?
Doing wonderful. So you guys don't know this. This is going to release in, I think, June. I think is when we're going to be showing this episode, but actually just also record an episode of Prime Talk with Dan that's going to be going live in September. So be sure to circle back to our other channel, Prime Talk, and hear more about his story and how Link My Books came to be. But right now, today's going to be all about seeing the tool itself. So I'm going to kick things over to you now, Dan, if you want to show us what you got and how sellers can automate their Amazon bookkeeping.
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect.
Cool. Right, okay, can you see my screen okay?
Sure can.
I was just telling Lisa that I did a whole presentation once, 30 minutes, and nobody told me that they didn't see my screen. So now always check that.
I will let you know at any point in time if it drops out or if we see something funky.
Hopefully nothing funky. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so what we're going to cover today is hurdles with e-commerce bookkeeping, how Link My Books can help, a quick demonstration, how you would get started, why you would choose us, the pricing, which is one of the most important parts, of course. And then normally I would do Q&A, but I guess since this is recording, there's going to be no questions unless Lisa's got some questions, and then that'll be good as well.
Well, and for any of our viewers, if they have them, they can pop them in the comments, and we'll be sure to send them over to get them answered for you.
That's a good point. Very good point. Yeah. Cool. Right. Okay. So the question I normally ask is, how are you dealing with your e-commerce bookkeeping right now? And what we typically find is it's one of three things. So the first thing is sellers are entering just a summary of sales and fees. So they basically download the date range report for the entire month, and they basically take the income side and put that in as sales, and they take the expenses side and they put that in as fees, and they just consider that done. The other option is that people take the individual orders themselves. So they look at every single order that's come into their Amazon account and they individually account for them, which is obviously extremely time consuming. The third thing that we see people doing is using spreadsheets. And spreadsheets are the pain of my life, if I'm completely honest, because they are something that is so prone to human error. And even though they can give you an accurate picture, we are in 2023, people. You should not be using a spreadsheet to do your accounting. You should be doing some sort of automation software, whether that's us or one of the other providers. But in the age of AI and all that, like a spreadsheet and downloading information, putting it into a spreadsheet, and then taking those figures and putting it into your QuickBooks account or your Xero account is old hat, really, is the way to put it. So the three reasons you wouldn't do that. The first one is not accurate. And that is because the date range report only shows the top level information, which is especially important for any sellers who need to separate their sales by destination. So i.e. sales tax, if they've got different sales tax by state, or UK customers who are paying VAT on their sales to the UK, but not the ones that are being exported outside. Australian customers, they will only pay GST on sales to Australia. All the sales that are going to customers outside Australia won't. So the date range summary report won't provide you with that level of detail, and therefore you're not going to get an accurate picture, and you're probably going to end up paying too much tax. The second one is hard to reconcile. So if you're a really small seller and you're just doing like a couple of orders per day, for example, and you want to just enter the order information directly into your bookkeeping system, then you can do that and it can be quite accurate. However, it's going to be hard for you to reconcile because Amazon is going to make a payment to you every 2 weeks. And if you just enter all the individual orders, then you're going to have the orders in one side and you're not really going to be able to, you're not going to be able to reconcile that against the payments that have come into your bank account because it's genuinely going to be really complicated to do. And then the third one is genuinely time consuming. So if you're spending more than 10 or 15 minutes a month per month doing your bookkeeping, then you're 100% wasting time, because the way that I'm about to show you is going to make it so much easier. So what you really need is something that's accurate, automated, and easy to use. And as you can imagine, since this is show us what you've got, then that's going to be Link My Books. So Link My Books sits in between your sales channels like Shopify, Amazon, eBay, and Etsy. And we're also adding in Walmart and TikTok Shop. So they are soon to come. By the time this comes out, they might even be there. And then on the bookkeeping side of things, we connect to Xero and QuickBooks. So what you need to think of us is we are the middleman. We are the software in between, because your sales channels don't connect directly to your bookkeeping platform. And even if they do have a direct integration, you shouldn't be using it, because they're not giving the correct information as we do. And what we do is we pull all that information from the sales channels and then accurately create summary invoices which go into your bookkeeping system, which then match up to exactly the deposits that have come into the account. And I'll show you how that works. So how does it work? Well, for every time you receive a payout from Amazon, so this is an example of a North American seller account. This is our dashboard. And so you'll see that each payout that this client or this fictitious client is receiving is got a summary on the dashboard here. So the top one is a payout from Amazon.com for $10,000 for the period 14th to the 28th of September 2021. And so from here, you can actually send this directly to QuickBooks or to Xero. But first of all, we'll probably want to know, what is this? So what is in each of these settlements? So a settlement from Amazon is effectively during the 14-day period, as you're making sales and refunds and fees are getting taken off, then Amazon is building up a balance within your account. You have like a seller balance. And every 14 days, Amazon will make a payout to your bank account. And so what we do is when Amazon make a payout to you, we go into Amazon and we pull all the transactions that are related to that payout, and we determine what they are. So some will be sales, some will be fees, some will be refunds, and there'll be some taxes on those things as well. And so what we do is we separate all those different types of transactions out, and we create a summary entry, which can be posted across to your bookkeeping system. And so as part of that, we're separating out all the sales by domestic and export. So all the taxes are going to be correct for your Australian and UK customers. And for your US customers, we also look at the sales tax side of things as well to make sure that all the sales tax is going into a centralized sales tax account. And all the fees are broken down by type, because again, in the UK and in Australia, some fees are subject to certain levels of tax and some fees aren't. So we break all of those things down and we create this summary entry. And the good thing is that because we are doing this based on the payout, then all of those transactions, the total, will come to exactly the amount that was paid out, because we're breaking down the payout. And the advantage of that is that if you have, for example, received $10,000 into your bank account from Amazon, and then we have generated an invoice which breaks down what that is made up of, and the total of that invoice is $10,000, then it means that it's going to be super easy for you to match that on your bank statement, which we'll come to in a second. Now, once that entry is posted across to your QuickBooks or your Xero account, it's going to give you a nice and easy way for you to just go straight into your bookkeeping system and have a look at exactly how your business is performing on a month-to-month basis. And this will be with accurate figures, with all the taxes accounted for correctly. So you'll be able to see things like your Amazon sales and refunds and all the different types of fees. But on top of that, we also have this thing called cost of goods sold tracking. So if you think about Amazon accounting as sort of two parts. The first part is you've received payments from Amazon, and they are broken down into sales, refunds, and fees and taxes. But then also you've had to use some inventory or sell some inventory to generate those sales. So that's going to be another cost to the business. So there's two ways to sort of think about your cost of goods sold. One is when you purchase your inventory, you just account for that straight away as a cost of goods sold. And that's by far the easiest way to do it. However, it doesn't give you a true accurate month-to-month picture. Because say, for example, if you buy $10,000 worth of inventory in January, and then you sell it through January, February, and March, then in January, it's going to look like you didn't make much profit because you've got a huge cost of $10,000 worth of inventory. And then in February and March, because there was no cost attributed to those months, because you purchased all that inventory in January, it's going to look like you've made a huge profit in those months. So you might think, well, my business is growing. Things are going really well. But what you really want to do is you want to account for the sale, the cost of that inventory as the products are being sold. So every time you sell 100 units, you should be accounting for 100 units worth of cost. And that's the bit that we can also automate. So not only can we automate the payouts side of things to break down what they are all made up of, but if you input your cost per unit, so your landed cost of each of the products that you sell, then we can, as part of these payout reports, we can be looking at, okay, so to make that £10,000, $10,000 worth of sales, how many of each of your products did you have to sell? And when we know that, we can work out what the cost is of those products. And when we know that, we can then adjust your profit and loss report. So we can add an extra line into your P&L, which shows what the cost of those sales were. And what that means is that you can then see what your true operating profit is, your true net profit for each month directly inside of your bookkeeping system. So you know you're going to have accurate accounts, but you're also going to be able to use that information to judge how profitable your business is and make good, informed business decisions. So if all of that, is automated, then what do you need to do? And the answer is very little, to be honest, because it looks a little bit like this. This is an example of a zero account. On the left-hand side, you see payments coming in from Amazon. So you see the deposits going into your bank account. And on the right-hand side, you see all the invoices that have been generated by Link My Books. So each of the payouts that you've received, we've then generated one of these summary invoices, which has broken down all of the sales, refunds, fees, and taxes. So you've got accurate accounts, but you've also got a really easy bank reconciliation. So now, no longer do you need to have all sorts of clearing accounts and balances that are left over at the end of every month. You know that every single line on your bank statement where there's a payment from Amazon, there's going to be a corresponding invoice generated by Link My Books, and it's just going to match straight away. So this is zero. So in zero, it goes green on the right, and you press OK in the middle. On QuickBooks, it comes up and goes green and says one match found, and you just click OK. That's it. You're done. So your monthly bookkeeping process went from spending hours and hours downloading reports and putting them to your accountant, who then runs them through some sort of magical spreadsheet, and you're never really sure whether the figures that come out at the end are 100% accurate or not, to now it's literally a couple of minutes and a couple of clicks, and you've now completed your entire month-end process. So now you can focus on growing your business instead of constantly looking in the rearview mirror and worrying if your figures are correct. So there must be a catch. It must be really difficult to set this up, because if everything that we've done so far is so extremely straightforward and easy, then it must be genuinely difficult to set up. And sorry to burst the bubble here, but it's not. It's really quite simple as well. So once you've connected up your Amazon account and your bookkeeping account, which takes a couple of clicks, then you'll be presented with our proprietary setup wizard. So I'm going to run through what it looks like for a North American-based business, so either in Canada or in the US. For the UK and Australian customers, it looks slightly different. There is one extra step, but that's just to do with the differences between taxes. So if anyone wants any more information on that, they can reach out to me afterwards. My email is daniel@linkmybooks.com, and I can personally take you through a demonstration if you're a UK or Australian-based customer. So back to the US example. So the first step is going to be when we take these payout settlement reports from Amazon and we look at the different types of transactions, then we're going to break those down into these 10 different transaction categories. So these are our top level transaction categories. So believe it or not, Amazon has around 400 odd different types of subcategories, but most of those fit nicely, well, all of those fit nicely into these 10 different top level categories. Now, this is a very streamlined approach. So this is a quick run through of what it can look like as a really top level setup. If you wanted to dive down into further detail and look at things like your sales principal versus your gift wrap versus your shipping versus your promotional discounts, then you can also set all that up. The tool is totally flexible. If you want just top level information like most people want in order to have accurate accounts and financials, then this is the perfect setup. If you want to dive down into more detail, then it's absolutely flexible and you can do whatever you want. So back to the demonstration here. So these are the different types of transaction categories. On the right-hand side, we've got the different accounts or the chart of accounts that we're going to use. So this is actually our default set of accounts, and this is what probably 90% of our users accept. And when they do that, we will add that into their existing chart of accounts. So you've sort of got two options here. You can either be one of the normal 90% and you can accept our default chart of accounts if you've not got something already set up in your QuickBooks or Xero account. Or if you're moving from another tool or you've already got a chart of accounts set up, then you can choose your existing chart of accounts at this point as well. These are all drop-down menus. So effectively what we're doing here is saying that, for example, with Amazon sales, we want those to be attributed to the Amazon sales account. For refunds, we want them going in the refunds account. So we've named them exactly the same as the category so that it's nice and easy for you to tell exactly what everything is when you're looking at your profit and loss or income statement inside of your bookkeeping system. So once you've decided on those, it's then the time to confirm the tax rates. So for a US-based business, for example, you would have your sales inside and outside the United States, and you would choose the tax rate for those. For most sellers who are selling in the US, all the tax rates will just be defaulted to tax exempt because chances are their sales tax is being either collected and remitted directly by Amazon, and we will separate those sales out accordingly and put them into the correct places. Or if they've got their own sales tax permits, then chances are they're calculating and filing their sales tax outside of their bookkeeping system anyway, using something like TaxJar, for example. And so all the tax rates are pretty much defaulted to tax exempt. Obviously, I'm not a tax advisor, so don't take that as a given tax advice here. Make sure you check that with your CPA as well, or your accountant. But once you've confirmed all those tax rates, that's it. You're set up. So that wasn't too difficult, was it? 2 steps.
No,
so,
easy breezy.
Yeah, good. So why choose us then? So there are obviously a couple of providers out there. There's maybe 5 or 6 of us who do roughly the same job. We all make it a super easy process to get your information from your sales channel and put it into your bookkeeping platform to like automate the bookkeeping side of things and remove that headache. So why would you specifically choose Link My Books? And that sort of boils down to 6 reasons. The first being that we support all the major sales channels. So wherever you sell on Amazon, whether that's North America, UK, Europe, Japan, Australia, anywhere, we support every single region. So you can connect your Amazon account regardless of where you sell, and also regardless of where your business is based as well. And that sort of takes me nicely into the second option, which is we understand all different types of taxes, and we've got all those built into our logic engine. So if you're based in the UK, we handle VAT. If you're based in Australia, we handle GST. If you're based in the US or in Canada, then sales taxes are part of our setup as well. The third reason is that we are loved by users. So I know that everyone says that like our users love us and etc. But I can proudly say that if you look at the Xero App Store, where we have the most amount of reviews for our business, we've got like close to 400 reviews there now from customers. We are rated 4.99 out of 5. We only ever got 1 review, which was a 4-star. Every single other one was a 5-star review. And I think that if you look at our competitors in the niche, then they are generally 4 to 4.5 rated out of 5. So I think that I would say that we are safe to say that our business is recommended by customers and is a top rated business as well. And I think one of the things that boils down to is value for money, which is my next point. So unlike a lot of the other softwares out there, we charge quite a fair price is what we would call it. So the more value you gain from us, the more you would pay us. However, with that being said, we always think that most customers who come to us will end up saving more in terms of time and also in terms of money, which we'll touch on in a second, versus the amount that they'll pay us. And the reason I say that is because this is not just about saving time. It's not just about, instead of you diving into a spreadsheet every month and spending hours and hours getting the data and putting it into your bookkeeping system and just getting lost in it basically and stressing about it. It's not just about taking that away. It is partly about that. But the main part of Link My Books is that because we are so accurate, because we are able to use computer power to process millions of transactions in seconds, we are able to guarantee that you're going to be paying the right amount of tax for every single sale. And with that comes not only the peace of mind of knowing that that's correct, but also, especially for UK and Australian customers, they will generally end up paying less tax, less VAT, less GST than if they did this manually. And that's because it's genuinely difficult to do this manually. It's genuinely difficult to separate out all your sales correctly and make sure that the exact right amount of taxes are paid every single time. But because we can do that through software, we can help customers to ensure they pay the right amount of VAT. And just as an example here, a couple of weeks ago, I worked with a client, an accountant who had a client who was doing around 50,000 orders a month on Amazon, selling across the US and the UK. And when they started to use Link My Books, they realized that they'd been doing things incorrectly previously by making various bookkeeping mistakes, which are typical. And they went back and they replaced 2 years worth of data with the Link My Books data, and they ended up reducing their tax bill by £125,000. So on their next VAT return to the UK government, they reclaimed £125,000, and their monthly fee to us was £69. So I would say that's a pretty good return on investment in terms of money spent.
Yeah, I think that's worth it. I mean,
yeah, I'm not
that's
sure
like a pretty big chunk of their refund, but no, that's crazy.
Yeah, indeed. And that accountant became the client's best friend, I think, after that. So, yeah, they got a big pat on the back. Obviously, we are secure. So, obviously, this is financial data. We understand that. I was just speaking to you, Lisa, a couple of hours ago about on the other podcast and saying that I myself previously was an Amazon seller. And the reason that Pete and I, who own the business, we closed down our Amazon businesses was the conflict of interest. That when we started this, we knew that we were going to be dealing with people's financial information. And even though we don't have access to it, we don't want to be answering that question that, are you guys using our best-selling products to then launch your own products? The answer is no. We don't have Amazon businesses anymore. In the UK, it's really easy to look up people's companies. So you can look me and Pete up on what's called Companies House, and you can see that we only own this. That's all we do at the moment. We focus solely on that. So we aren't using your data for anything other than processing it for your use. And then we use the top sort of encryption and safety measures, which are approved by Amazon because they do a yearly audit on us every single year to make sure that we are up to the latest standards. So you can be secure, you can be safe to know that all your information is secure. And then last but certainly not least is our amazing support. So whilst we are first and foremost a software provider and we are there to save you time and money by implementing automation software, we also pride ourselves in having an amazing support team. So our support team is actually only made up of qualified accountants, because we know that customers who come to us and ask questions will have questions about accounting. So it makes sense for the people on the other side of the keyboard or on the other side of the phone to be able to fully understand everything about accounting. So our team are 5 qualified accountants who understand not only accounting, but Link My Books, the e-commerce space. They're really knowledgeable. They know all the lingo from FBA to MFN and all that jazz. So any questions you've got, they can answer it. And I think that's one of the main things that gets mentioned in our reviews, is that it's genuinely easy to set up this software. But if you ever do have a question, the team are there and they're amazing. So shout out to them. So pricing, this must cost a fortune, mustn't it, Lisa? Because it's so good. The answer is it doesn't. So because probably 80% of our customers can come in the door, start a trial and set themselves up, because this is so easy, and because we can automate the vast majority of it on our side as well, then it doesn't make sense for us to charge the earth for it. So we charge what we feel is a reasonable price in order to provide the value to the customer. So for a US customer, pricing starts from $17 a month. In the UK, it's from £13 a month. In Australia, it's $26, as in Australian dollars per month. And that price scales with the size of the order count. So if you've got a really small seller that's doing less than 200 orders a month, that would be your price. If you scale up towards 5,000 orders per month, then you're going to be talking closer to $60 per month for up to 5,000 orders. and then it sort of like scales along the way. It never gets to an astronomical price. We are really price competitive in our market, about 30% less expensive than the market leader. And all the plans come with free one-to-one onboarding. So if you do want to set this up yourself, then that's absolutely fine. But if you want someone to hold your hand, one of our qualified accountants to be able to help you through and make sure everything's set up correctly, then you can book a one-to-one video onboarding with them free of charge on any plan, even on a free trial. You don't have to put any card details in at that point. There is a free 14-day trial on all the plans. And if you want to go back and say, do catch-up bookkeeping, so you haven't done any bookkeeping for 2 years, hopefully you have, but if you haven't, then you can go back up to 2 years. We can pull historically information from the sales channels. So that's me. Any questions, Lisa?
Awesome. No, I don't think so. It's a really straightforward kind of solution there. And I think that, like you said, obviously the pricing is incredible, especially for the use case that you gave of getting back 127,000 pounds in taxes. I mean, that's just bonkers. And accounting and bookkeeping are such specialized fields. I feel like it's easy to make little mistakes like that can cost you a ton. So having a service like this is definitely super important. So let's let people know where they can learn more about Link My Books and maybe where they can sign up and get started with that free 14-day trial.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get started, then you can head over to linkmybooks.com and there's a button at the top right-hand side, say get started for free. You can start a free 14-day trial, no card details or anything like that. We just let you straight in the door. You can connect up your Amazon account, connect up your Xero or QuickBooks account, go through the setup, which I've shown you, get in touch with the amazing support team if you've got any questions. Nothing gets changed on your Amazon account. We don't change anything there. It's read only, nor does anything get posted automatically to your bookkeeping account initially. So most people will set up automated filings eventually, but initially it is set up to be manual. You have to click a button to say send this settlement to Xero. So there's no risk of like all of a sudden your bookkeeping account is flooded with information. If you want to get in touch with me directly, it's daniel@linkmybooks.com. The general support team is support@linkmybooks.com. And one other thing that I'll just point out is that we have a lot of sellers who come in the door who will say to us, well, why do I need this? My bookkeeping is fine. Like I've got an accountant who handles this for me. And one thing I'll always say is have a look on our blog. We've got a blog post. I'll get the link to Lisa afterwards, which is called The 5 Biggest Mistakes That Amazon Sellers Make. Without even knowing it, I think it's called something like that. And in there, I talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that people make that sort of go under the radar. And so what we find is that even when these sellers who say everything is fine come to us, that upwards of 75% of them are making some form of mistake, which means that they are overpaying tax. And no one likes to do that, especially when you don't know it's happening under the radar. And this guy who saved £125,000, the only thing he came to us was because he was taking on this client as he was an accountant who took on this client new. He was taken over from someone else's workflow. They didn't at that point know that they'd made loads of mistakes. He just wanted to be able to streamline this process. He didn't want to be downloading reports. He just wanted to be able to save time. We ran a VAT audit on his account for a 3-month period and found that he'd overpaid VAT. We went back 2 years and that's how we discovered that he'd overpaid £125,000. So It's well worth even just taking the free trial and taking an audit with us just to make sure that something might be going on under the radar that you don't know about.
100%. And again, you guys, that website is linkmybooks.com and you can reach out to Daniel directly at daniel@linkmybooks.com. Got those both on the screen for you. Daniel, thank you so much for your time today, dear. Really appreciate it. And thank you for walking us through that demo. You definitely showed us what you got. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Cool. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. And also thank you to everybody who tuned in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics Podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, GETIDA. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at GETIDA.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.